My dad walked out 20 years ago. He just showed up at my wedding, expecting to walk me down the aisle. I was sitting in the bridal suite, my best friend carefully pinning the last piece of my veil into place, when my phone buzzed. It was my mom. The message read, "Sweetheart, we have a situation. Don't panic, but your father is here." My father. The man who walked out when I was 7 years old. The man who missed every birthday, every graduation, every milestone. The man who chose his new life over his daughter. And now, 20 years later, he had the audacity to show up at my wedding. Let me take you back to where this story really begins, because you need to understand just how deep this betrayal went. I was 7 years old when I watched my dad pack his bags. I remember standing in the doorway of my parents' bedroom, clutching my favorite stuffed rabbit, watching him fold shirts into a suitcase. I asked him where he was going. He didn't even look at me. He just said he'd see me soon. That was the last real conversation we ever had. My mom tried to explain it to me in the gentlest way possible. Dad had met someone else, someone at his office, someone younger, without kids, without stretch marks, without the complications of family life. Someone who represented a fresh start. And apparently, I didn't fit into that picture. The first few months were the hardest. I would sit by the window every afternoon waiting for his car to pull into the driveway. I'd made him a drawing at school, colored carefully within the lines because I knew he liked things neat. I was sure he'd come back for it. He never did. The birthday cards stopped coming after the first year. The promised weekend visits never materialized. When I turned 8, I waited by the phone all day. Nothing. When I turned 9, I didn't wait anymore. My mom became both parents. She worked 2 jobs to keep our small house. She learned how to fix the leaky faucet, how to change the oil in the car, how to be tough when she needed to be, and soft when I needed her to be. She showed up to every parent-teacher conference, every school play, every soccer game. She sat in the audience alone while other kids had 2 parents cheering them on, but she cheered loud enough for both. Meanwhile, my dad started his new life. I found out through Facebook years later that he'd gotten married to that woman within a year of leaving us. They had 2 kids together, 2 little girls who got the father I'd been denied. He posted pictures of birthday parties, family vacations to Disney World, Christmas mornings with presents piled high. He was being the dad he never was to me, just with a different family. The anger came later, during my teenage years. I'd see fathers walking their daughters through the mall, teaching them to drive, taking them to father-daughter dances. I went to my 8th grade dance with my uncle. He was kind about it, but it wasn't the same. It would never be the same. When I graduated high school with honors, I sent him an invitation. I don't know why I did it. Maybe some small part of me still hoped. He didn't show up. He didn't even send a card. But I saw on Facebook that same weekend that he'd taken his new daughters to a theme park. The photos showed him wearing a goofy hat, cotton candy in hand, smiling wider than I'd ever seen him smile in the few memories I had left of him. College was my escape. I threw myself into my studies, made amazing friends, and slowly built a life that didn't have a dad-shaped hole in it. Or at least that's what I told myself. The hole was always there. I just got better at walking around it. Then I met Daniel. Sweet, steady, reliable Daniel, who showed up when he said he would, who remembered little things, who asked about my day and actually listened to the answer, whose own father had passed away when he was young, so he understood loss in a way most people didn't. When Daniel proposed on a beach at sunset, getting down on one knee in the sand while I ugly cried happy tears, one of my first thoughts was relief that I wouldn't have to figure out the father-daughter dance situation. My uncle had already passed away by then. I'd decided months before Daniel even proposed that if I ever got married, I'd walk myself down the aisle. I'd gotten myself this far in life without a father. I could walk 50 feet down a church aisle the same way. Daniel's mom helped with wedding planning. My mom was my rock through all of it. We picked out flowers together, tasted cakes, debated color schemes. It was actually healing in a way. Planning this celebration of love and family, building my own family with Daniel. This was my fresh start, and my father had no place in it. I didn't send him an invitation. Why would I? He'd given up the right to be part of my life 20 decades ago. So you can imagine my shock when my mom's text came through. I stared at my phone screen, reading the message over and over. My hands started shaking. My best friend, Jenna, noticed immediately. "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Worse," I managed to say. "My father is here." Jenna's jaw dropped. She knew the whole story. She'd held me through crying sessions about daddy issues, celebrated with me when I finally felt like I'd healed, helped me address wedding invitations with just my mom's name on the family list. How was he here? Did someone tell him? I didn't know. I fired off a quick text to my mom asking her to meet me. She appeared in the bridal suite within minutes, and the look on her face told me this was bad.
"He walked right into the church," Mom said, slightly out of breath. "He's wearing a tuxedo. Emily, he has a white rose boutonniere. He's dressed like he's walking you down the aisle." The audacity. The sheer breathtaking audacity of this man. "How did he even know?" I asked, my voice rising. Mom's face went pale. "I think it was your cousin Rachel. She's Facebook friends with his wife. She must have posted something about the wedding." Of course. Social media, the great betrayer. "What do you want to do?" Jenna asked gently. "It's your day, your choice." My choice. For once in this entire situation, I actually had a choice. Part of me wanted to hide in this bridal suite until he left. Part of me wanted to confront him, to scream every hurt and disappointment I'd bottled up for 20 years. Part of me, a tiny foolish part that I hated, wondered if maybe he'd had some grand realization, some awakening that made him understand what he'd lost and come to make amends. But that fantasy died when Mom told me the rest. "He told the ushers he's your father and he's here to walk you down the aisle. He's out there telling people he wouldn't miss this for the world." Her voice dripped with disgust. "He brought his wife and daughters." He brought them, his replacement family, to my wedding, to show them off probably, to play the proud father for an audience. That's when the anger truly hit. Not the sad, wounded anger of a hurt child, but the righteous fury of a grown woman who had survived his abandonment and built a beautiful life anyway. "I'm going to talk to him," I announced, standing up. "Honey, are you sure?" Mom asked. "You don't have to do anything. We can have him escorted out." "No," I said firmly. "I need to do this. I've earned this." Jenna helped me gather my dress so I wouldn't trip. I looked at myself in the mirror one last time. I looked beautiful. I looked happy. I looked like a woman who didn't need a father who'd never been there. I walked out of the bridal suite and through the church corridors. I could hear the murmur of guests in the sanctuary, the soft music playing, the excited atmosphere of a wedding about to begin. And there, standing near the entrance like he belonged there, was my father. He'd aged, more gray hair, deeper lines around his eyes, but he was smiling, chatting with one of Daniel's groomsmen like this was perfectly normal. His wife stood next to him, a woman I'd never met, looking uncomfortable. Two teenage girls who were technically my half-sisters stood nearby, whispering to each other. When he saw me approach in my wedding dress, his face lit up. "Sweetie, you look absolutely beautiful. I can't believe my little girl is getting married." My little girl. I hadn't been his little girl since I was 7 years old. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice cold and controlled. His smile faltered just slightly. "What do you mean? I'm here for your wedding. I'm your father, of course I'm here." "You're my father?" I repeated, letting the words hang in the air. "That's interesting, because my father hasn't been part of my life for 20 years, so I'm confused about which father you're claiming to be." People nearby started to notice the tension. The ambient noise began to quiet as heads turned our way. "Emily, come on," he said, his voice taking on a placating tone. "I know things haven't been perfect, but this is your wedding day. Can't we put the past behind us? I'm here now. That's what matters." "You're here now," I echoed. "Where were you when I learned to ride a bike? Where were you when I got my first period and had no idea what was happening? Where were you at my high school graduation? Where were you every single day for the past 20 years?
His wife touched his arm, whispering, "Maybe we should go." "No," I said, looking at her directly. "Since you brought you into this, you should hear it too. You should know exactly what kind of man you married." I turned back to my father, and 20 years of pain came pouring out. "You walked out when I was 7. You promised you'd see me soon. You lied. You stopped calling. You stopped visiting. You started a whole new family and erased me like I never existed. I saw the Facebook pictures, the birthday parties, the vacations, the father-daughter moments with them." I gestured to his daughters, who looked mortified. "You gave them everything you never gave me." "I made mistakes," he started, but I cut him off. "Mistakes? Missing a recital is a mistake. Forgetting a birthday one time is a mistake. Abandoning your child for 20 years isn't a mistake. It's a choice. A choice you made every single day." My mother had appeared behind me, ready to support me if I needed it. Jenna stood to my other side. My people, the ones who'd actually been there. "I sent you my high school graduation invitation," I continued, my voice breaking slightly. "Did you know that? I actually sent it, hoping you might show up, might prove that you still cared, even a little bit. You didn't come, but you know what you did that weekend? You took your new daughters to an amusement park. I saw the pictures. You looked happier with them in one day than you ever looked with me in 7 years. "That's not fair," he protested weakly. "Fair?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want to talk about fair? Here's what's fair. You made your choice 2 decades ago. You chose a new life without me in it, and I survived. I thrived. I built an incredible life with people who actually love me, who show up, who don't run when things get hard. My mom," I gestured to her, "has been both parents. She worked herself to exhaustion to give me everything I needed. She was there for every tear, every triumph, every moment. She earned the right to be here today." I took a breath, steadying myself. "You haven't earned anything. You think you can just show up, put on a tuxedo, pin on a boutonniere, and play father of the bride? You think you can walk me down an aisle you have no right to be on? This day, this moment, this entire life I've built, you have no claim to any of it." "I'm still your father," he said quietly, and for the first time he actually looked ashamed. "Biologically, yes," I acknowledged, "but being a father is about more than biology. It's about showing up. It's about sacrifice. It's about love that doesn't quit when things get complicated. You've never been that kind of father to me." One of his daughters, the older one, was crying. I felt a flash of sympathy for them. This wasn't their fault. They were just kids caught in their father's mess, just like I had been. "I'm sorry you had to see this," I said to them gently, "but you should know who your father really is. Maybe he's been good to you. I hope he has, but he wasn't good to me, and he doesn't get to rewrite that history by showing up today." I looked back at my father one last time. "You need to leave. This is my wedding. These are my people. You're not welcome here. You lost the right to be part of my life when you walked out of it, and unlike you, I'm going to be clear and direct about it. I don't want you here. I don't need you here. I'm going to walk myself down that aisle because I've been walking through life without you just fine." "Emily, please," he tried one more time. "No," I said firmly. "You don't get to please me. You don't get to make this about you. Leave, now, or I'll have security remove you." Daniel's brother, who was built like a linebacker, stepped forward helpfully. "I think the bride has made herself clear." My father looked around at the hostile faces, the lack of sympathy, the clear understanding that he'd crossed a line he could never uncross. His wife tugged at his arm again, more insistently this time. "Let's go," she whispered. "You shouldn't have come. I told you this was a bad idea." As they turned to leave, I felt my mother's hand slip into mine. Jenna squeezed my shoulder. I watched my father walk away, just like he'd walked away 20 years ago, and this time I felt nothing but relief. The ceremony started 20 minutes late. I walked down the aisle alone, my head held high, my dress flowing behind me, and I felt powerful. I felt free. Every step I took was mine. I'd earned it. When I reached Daniel at the altar, he whispered, "You okay?" "I'm perfect," I whispered back, and I meant it. During the reception, my mom gave a toast that had everyone in tears. She talked about strength, resilience, and the family we choose. She talked about how proud she was of the woman I'd become, how honored she was to be my mother, how no one deserved happiness more than I did. She never mentioned my father once. He'd already taken up enough space in our lives. Later, during the reception, I did have a father-daughter dance, just not a traditional one. I danced with my mom to a song about strong women, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house. This woman had been my everything. She'd sacrificed, struggled, and succeeded in raising me alone. She deserved that dance more than anyone. Daniel and I had the most amazing honeymoon. 2 weeks in Italy, eating pasta, drinking wine, exploring ancient cities, and building our future together. I barely thought about my father at all. For the first time in my life, his absence didn't hurt. It just was. A few weeks after we got back, I received a letter. It was from him, of course. Pages and pages of explanations, excuses, and apologies. He wrote about his regrets, his mistakes, how he wanted to make things right, how he hoped we could build a relationship now. I read it once, then I threw it away. Some bridges once burned can't be rebuilt, and honestly, I didn't want to rebuild it. I'd spent too many years hoping he'd come back, waiting for him to choose me, believing that someday he'd realize what he'd lost. I was done waiting. I was done hoping. I was done giving him power over my happiness. The thing about abandonment is that it teaches you who you can count on, and I'd learned that lesson well. I could count on my mom, on my friends, on Daniel, on myself. That was more than enough. 6 months later, I found out I was pregnant. Daniel and I were over the moon, and as I started thinking about becoming a parent myself, I understood even more deeply how unforgivable my father's actions had been. I couldn't imagine abandoning my child. I couldn't imagine choosing anything over being present in their life. The idea was incomprehensible to me. When our daughter was born, we named her after my mom. She'll never know her maternal grandfather, and I'm okay with that. She'll know her grandmother, the woman who showed me what real parental love looks like. She'll know what it means to show up, to sacrifice, to love unconditionally. And if my father ever tries to be part of her life, the answer will be the same as it was at my wedding. No. You don't get to pick and choose when to be family. You don't get to show up for the good parts after missing the hard parts. That's not how love works. Some people think I'm too harsh. They say everyone deserves a second chance, that forgiveness is for me, not for him, that holding on to anger will only hurt me. But here's the thing. I'm not holding on to anger. I'm holding on to boundaries. I'm protecting myself and my family from someone who proved he can't be trusted. Forgiveness doesn't mean giving someone access to hurt you again. It doesn't mean pretending the past didn't happen. It doesn't mean welcoming someone back into your life just because they decide they're ready now. I've forgiven my father in the sense that I no longer let his choices define my worth. I no longer spend my energy being angry at him. I've made peace with his absence. But forgiveness doesn't equal reconciliation. Those are two very different things. My wedding day could have been ruined by his appearance. It could have been overshadowed by drama and pain. Instead, it became the day I finally, completely let him go. The day I stopped being the little girl waiting by the window and became the woman who walks her own path. And that woman? She's doing just fine. Better than fine. She's built a beautiful life filled with people who actually love her, who show up for her, who choose her every single day. She's a wife, a mother, a daughter to an incredible woman, a friend to amazing people. She doesn't need a father who walked out 20 years ago. She never did. She just had to learn that she was enough all on her own. So if you're dealing with someone in your life who thinks they can show up after years of absence and expect a welcome, remember this. You get to decide who has access to you. You get to decide who earns a place in your life. And showing up late doesn't erase showing up never. Walk your own aisle, dance your own dance, build your own life, and don't let anyone who wasn't there for the building think they get to enjoy the house. My father thought he could walk me down the aisle. Instead, he walked out of my life for the final time. And you know what? The view from where I'm standing is pretty incredible.